I was standing in front of the mirror adjusting my vest 3 weeks before my wedding day. Everything felt perfect. Amanda, my fiancée, was in the next room humming a song. My brother Derek had agreed to be my best man. Life was exactly where I wanted it to be. But that evening, Amanda's phone kept buzzing. She flipped it face down every single time. I told myself it was nothing. I trusted her. I trusted him. I had no idea that in exactly 72 hours my entire world would collapse. Before we get into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you believe in loyalty and standing up for yourself, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Stay with me because what I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and family. My name is John. I am 30 years old and I work as a software engineer at a tech company in Austin, Texas. I have always been the quiet type, the kind of guy who keeps his head down and works hard. Growing up, I learned early that nobody was going to hand me anything. I paid my own way through college, working part-time jobs while studying full-time. It took me 5 years after graduation, but I finally saved enough to buy a small apartment. Nothing fancy, just a two-bedroom place that I could call my own. I was proud of what I had built with my own hands. My brother Derek is 3 years older than me. For as long as I can remember, he has been the golden child of our family. When we were kids, Derek always got the better toys, the newer clothes, the first car when he turned 16. I got his hand-me-downs. Our parents, Richard and Linda, never seemed to notice the difference in how they treated us. Or maybe they did, and just did not care. Derek has this natural charm about him. He can walk into a room and make everyone like him within 5 minutes. He works in real estate sales, though he switches companies every year or so. Despite everything, I loved my brother. I always tried to maintain a good relationship with him, even when I felt like I was living in his shadow. The thing about being the second son is that you get used to being overlooked. Every time I achieved something, my parents would say, "Good job," and then immediately shift the conversation to whatever Derek was doing. When I got my first promotion, my dad spent 10 minutes talking about how Derek had just closed a big deal. I accepted it as normal. I told myself that was just how families worked. The older sibling gets more attention. It was fine. I had my own life to focus on. Then, I met Amanda. It was 4 years ago at a technology conference downtown. She was working a booth for the marketing startup she worked for, and I was there representing my company. She had this energy about her, this brightness, that drew me in immediately. We started talking, and before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. I asked for her number and she gave it to me with a smile that made my heart race. Our first date was at a small coffee shop near the river. She was so nervous that she knocked over her cup and spilled coffee all over my shirt. We both laughed so hard that the other customers started staring. That was the moment I knew she was special. We dated for 2 years before I asked her to move in with me. She said yes without hesitation. On our third anniversary, I took her to the same coffee shop where we had our first date. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She cried and said yes, and I felt like the luckiest man alive. We planned the wedding for 6 months out. My mom was thrilled. She threw herself into helping with the preparations, calling vendors, looking at venues, picking out flowers. For the first time in my life, I felt like my family was truly excited about something I was doing. When I asked Derek to be my best man, he grinned and pulled me into a hug. I thought it would bring us closer together. I thought this was the beginning of a new chapter for our whole family. Amanda fit right in with my relatives. She was especially close with Derek because they both worked in sales-related fields. They would talk about clients and marketing strategies, and I was happy to see them getting along. At family dinners, they would sit next to each other and chat while I helped my mom in the kitchen. I thought it was a good thing. I thought my future wife bonding with my brother was a blessing. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. About 2 months before the wedding, Amanda started texting late at night. When I asked who it was, she would say it was work stuff, a client in a different time zone. I believed her. Derek started coming over more often, usually when I was still at the office. One evening, I came home early and found them sitting on the couch together. They were laughing about something, but they stopped the moment they saw me. Amanda explained that Derek was helping her pick out a surprise wedding gift for me. I smiled and thanked them both. I told myself they were just being friendly. Derek is my brother. Amanda loves me. There was nothing to worry about. 3 weeks before our wedding, my company sent me to Dallas for a business trip. It was supposed to be a 3-day assignment meetings with a potential client. Before I left, Amanda kissed me at the door and told me she would miss me. I promised to call her every night. The meetings went better than expected, and we wrapped up a day early. I decided to surprise Amanda by coming home without telling her. On the way back, I stopped at a flower shop and bought a dozen red roses, her favorites. I imagined the look on her face when she saw me walk through the door. I pulled into the parking lot of our apartment complex around 9 in the evening. The first thing I noticed was Derek's car parked in its usual spot. He had been coming over so often lately that he had his own unofficial parking space. I figured he was keeping Amanda company while I was away. Good, I thought. I would surprise both of them. I used my key to open the front door quietly. The living room was dark. The television was off, but I could hear sounds coming from the bedroom, muffled voices, movement. My heart started beating faster, though I did not understand why. I walked slowly toward the bedroom door. It was slightly open, a thin sliver of light spilling into the hallway. What I saw through that gap destroyed everything. Amanda and Derek, together, in my bed, in the apartment I had worked years to afford. On the sheets I had just washed before leaving for Dallas, the roses slipped from my hand and hit the floor. The sound made them both turn around. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Amanda's eyes went wide with horror. Derek's face turned pale. I stood there frozen, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out everything inside. Derek scrambled off the bed, grabbing for his clothes. "John, wait. Let me explain." Amanda pulled the blanket up to cover herself, tears already streaming down her face. "It is not what you think." I found my voice, though it did not sound like me. It was cold, flat, dead. "How long?" Neither of them answered. The silence stretched between us like a knife. Finally, Derek spoke. "About 6 months." 6 months. I did the math in my head. 6 months ago was exactly when I had asked Derek to help me pick out an engagement ring. While he was helping me choose the perfect diamond, he was sleeping with the woman I wanted to spend my life with. Amanda tried to explain. "John," I was confused. "You were always working. You were never home. Derek was there for me when you were not." I stared at her. "I worked overtime to save money for our wedding, for our future, for us." Derek stepped forward, his hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal. "Bro, these things just happen. We did not plan this. It just happened." I looked at my brother, my own blood, the person I had admired my entire life despite everything. "Get out of my apartment, both of you, now." They gathered their things in silence. Amanda tried to touch my arm as she passed, but I pulled away like her hand was made of fire. Derek muttered something about calling me tomorrow to talk. I did not respond. I just stood there until I heard the front door close behind them. That night I sat alone in my living room for hours. I could not cry. I could not scream. I just felt numb, like all my emotions had been drained out of me. I looked around at all the reminders of the life I thought I was building. Sample wedding photos on the wall, a stack of printed invitations on the coffee table, Amanda's wedding dress hanging in the closet. Everything felt like a lie. Around midnight I called Marcus. He was my best friend from college, the only person I trusted completely. He answered on the second ring, heard the tone of my voice, and said he was on his way. 20 minutes later, he was sitting next to me on the couch while I told him everything. He cursed more than I had ever heard him curse before. "You need to cancel everything," Marcus said. "The wedding, all of it. And you need to tell your parents." I nodded slowly. "I know. But how do I tell them their golden boy did this?" The next morning, I started making calls. The restaurant, the photographer, the DJ, the florist, the rental company for the chairs and tables. Each conversation was the same. "I am sorry the wedding is canceled. Yes, I understand I will lose the deposit. No, I do not want to reschedule." Every phone call felt like another wound being torn open. I sent a mass text message to everyone on the guest list. "The wedding is canceled." I apologize for any inconvenience. My phone exploded with responses. Friends asking what happened, coworkers expressing concern, family members demanding explanations. I ignored them all except for Marcus. That afternoon, my mother called. Her voice was a mixture of confusion and concern. "John, what is going on? Derek told us you canceled the wedding and kicked Amanda out." My stomach dropped. Derek had already talked to them. "What exactly did Derek tell you?" "He said there was a misunderstanding, that you overreacted to something small." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "A misunderstanding? Mom, I caught Derek in bed with Amanda. In my bed. In my apartment." Silence. Long, heavy silence. That, that cannot be true, my mother finally said. Derek would never do something like that. He did, Mom. For 6 months. He admitted it to my face. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. My father called me the day after I told my mother the truth. His voice was stern, the same tone he used when I was a child and had done something wrong. I talked to Derek, he said. He admitted what happened. But John, he is your brother. I could not believe what I was hearing. So you are taking his side. There are no sides here. Family is family. People make mistakes. He slept with my fiancée for 6 months, Dad. That is not a mistake. That is a choice. Repeated choices made over and over again. You need to calm down and think about this rationally. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. Over the following days, the pressure from my family intensified. My mother called every single day, sometimes multiple times. She would cry and beg me to reconsider. Weddings can be replaced, she would say. You can find another woman, but a brother is for life. Another time, she said, Derek has apologized. Amanda has apologized. What more do you want from them? I want them to not have betrayed me in the first place, I told her. You cannot apologize your way out of a year of lies. My father sent me a long email about the importance of forgiveness in families. He quoted religious texts and talked about how holding grudges would only poison my own soul. He wrote that I needed to be the bigger man to rise above my anger and show grace. I read it once and deleted it. Derek tried calling me 5 times. I never answered. He sent text messages instead. Bro, I am so sorry. Please let me make this right. I will do anything. I did not respond to those either. Amanda somehow found out where I worked and sent a handwritten letter to my office. 3 pages of tear-stained paper filled with apologies and explanations. She wrote about how lonely she had been, how she had made a terrible mistake, how she still loved me and wanted to work things out. I read the whole thing.